We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Abhu on Facebook. Abhu. I may be saying that right or not. I don't know. We'll find out. What makes Ultra HD Blu-ray discs different than Blu-ray discs? Do they use a new laser, or are they just Blu-ray discs with additional layers? They definitely use a new laser. They don't have additional layers.
Do they use a new laser?
I
don't
thought
know if
they did.
do.
I thought they did. I thought the laser was slightly different.
I don't think so. I mean, they're essentially the BDXL discs. So regular Blu-rays have 25 gigabytes per layer and a maximum of 2 layers. So either 25 gigs on a single layer or 50 gigs on a dual layer. Ultra HD Blu-ray discs put 33 gigabytes per layer. So you can have...
Yeah, so it's tighter.
Yeah, so they just go more to the edges.
No, really?
Yeah, that's kind of all they did on them. So they're either dual layer, meaning 66, or triple layer, meaning 99.
Right.
Which they call a 100 gigabyte disc. So physically they are different in that one is 25 gigabytes per layer, one is 33, but they do that just by going more to the edges. As far as I know, the laser, I mean, if it changed very slightly. It's still a blue laser.
Yeah, but I mean, it must be somewhat different because it's got to read.
I don't know, because I mean, people are able to physically read Ultra HD Blu-ray discs with BDXL PC drives. Doesn't mean anything will actually play, but they can physically read the data on them. So, what was different was the focusing, because a regular Blu-ray drive can only focus on either one layer or the second layer.
Right.
It can't focus on a third or fourth layer like BDXL can, but BDXL can focus on 3 or 4 layers. So the laser's probably the
same, it's just the different...
the laser's the same, but the lens structure is different. Yeah, the lens structure for the focusing is different. Outside of that, it's different formats that are stored on the disc. So Blu-ray is H.264.
Right.
Ultra HD Blu-ray is H.265, also called HEVC. So it's a different codec that's on there. Yeah. And then, of course, what's in that format is different. It's 10-bit instead of 8-bit. It's got high dynamic range. It's got the higher resolution. But, the physical discs themselves, not tremendously different.
So lastly, ask, are there any AV receivers that can process both front heights and surround back speakers simultaneously? And if so, would that be 9.1.4? Well, wait a second.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused.
Yeah, I am too.
That's exactly how he worded it, so I'm just going to go
I know, because I read this question when it came in. I was like, that's what my home theater does. I've got height speakers, and I've got surround back speakers.
Right.
Okay? So that's 7.1.2.
1.2, yeah.
So what it is. So are you saying, can they do height, surround backs, and then 2 additional Atmos speakers?
Right.
Or 4 additional Atmos speakers? And the answer to that question is no. Because front height speakers end up being an Atmos speaker. One of the 0.4s. And we can't. So it would end up being 7.1.6 if what we're thinking you're saying is what you're saying, which is 7.1 setup with front heights, top middles, and top backs, or something like that. Right. Which can't be done right now. I mean, unless you have a turn-off.
That's right. Or some of the other, like a Steinway Langdorf can do it, and Datasat has one that can do it, but these are all over $10,000, actually well over $10,000. So as far as regular mainstream AV receivers, what several of them can do is your 7 traditional speakers and 4 overhead speakers. 2 of which could be front heights. They absolutely could be. So you could have front heights and top middles, or front heights and top rears, or front heights and rear heights. So in that sense, you can absolutely do surround backs and front heights at the same time. Plenty of receivers can do that. To get to 9.1.4, that would be adding front wides. So there aren't any mainstream receivers that can do 9.1.4. They can do 9.1.2.
Yeah.
There are quite a few that can do that. Only older ones, because none of the new ones do front wides anymore.
Right.
But yeah, so the first number in this triple number thing is referring to how many speakers are at ear level. So the traditional is 7. Yeah. 9 would add front wides. Then you have the next number, which is the number of subwoofers, and then the last number, which is the number of overhead speakers. Front heights are one option for those overhead speakers.
Yeah. Right, because what you're describing, what you're saying is front heights, right? Was it front height and surround
Front heights and
backs?
surround back. I'm guessing he's looking at
that's been
a
around
lot
forever.
of seven. Yeah, I'm guessing he's looking at a lot of 7-channel receivers.
Yeah.
Like let's say the X3300W, right?
Oh, yeah,
that one maxes out at 7 speakers, so you could do 5.1.2, which would be 5 traditional speakers, plus front heights could be the option. Or you can set it up as 7.2, which would mean you have surround backs, but now you don't have front heights. So there's a ton of receivers that only do 7 speakers maximum.
Like
so maybe that's what he was asking about.
Yeah. Mine only does 7, but you can add an amp to do the other 2.
To do 9. So in effect, your receiver can process 9 speakers. Mm-hmm. It can power 7, but it can process 9. But yeah,
and that's an
there's
X4000.
a lot of receivers.
I mean, that's like 3 years old.
That's right. Yeah. There's several receivers that can process 9 or 11 speakers. There's several that can do that, but they are the higher end models for sure.
Kerry saw a post from a filmmaker that was inspired by Samsung's HDR 10 Plus format announcement.
Right.
The filmmaker's initial reaction is that HDR is essentially just another way to, more than likely, screw up the director's intent, and that while a system like Dolby Vision can help with its controlled metadata, he doesn't believe TV manufacturers will be able to resist the urge using the brighter panels to HDRify all content to make everything brighter, bluer, and smoother. The filmmaker seems to mostly believe that there's no lack of dynamic range in existing filmmaking, and that brighter isn't better. And that brighter is better isn't true. So do we have any thoughts on this rant? I think he's got a point.
Yeah, I see where he's coming from.
On
some
level. I mean, because if you look at TVs now, we still have frame interpolation, we still have smoothing, we still have all these other things.
And the out-of-the-box picture mode is rarely the most accurate mode when it comes to colors and contrast and all that.
And to think that they're not going to have some artificial HDR crap on their...
Oh, they already do. They have the SDR to HDR conversion thingy in there, for sure.
There's certainly... There would be no reason from their end not to include such a thing. Why are they going to include it? Why wouldn't they? Anything they can include that would make somebody go, this one must be better because of this thing that they got and it doesn't cost them that much extra money, they're going to do. Okay? So he's right on that. But getting past all that stuff is usually defeatable and should be, and I dare say will be always defeatable, and so that we can have true HDR content that was filmed in that way, and we see what was filmed as intended. There's no reason to think that it's going to be foisted upon us by the TV manufacturers and that we're going to be subjected to it against our wills. Not only that, this whole idea that there's no lack of dynamic range in existing filmmaking is a get off my lawn rant that needs to just die. It happens every time a new technology comes out. People were complaining about I've said this on the podcast before. People who did makeup, people who were doing sets were complaining that HG made some of their tricks not work anymore. You can't just put some random crap in the background, and because it'll be blurry, people won't know what it is. I mean, one of the tricks when you're on stage, when you're supposed to be quietly, people are supposed to be talking, and then somebody steps forward to do a monologue.
Sure.
When people are in the back, they say rutabaga to each other over and over again.
Yeah, that's right.
Because when you say rutabaga, your lips make this sound that everybody's like, not sound, but this motion that is not easily read by those that are looking at you. It doesn't immediately. It's not like you're going to distract the people who are off stage. The people in the audience, they're going to distract them by saying, "Oh, they're talking about what they're going to be doing in the next, scene or something like that." Rutabaga just comes out looking really weird, and people can't read your lips. Therefore, they focus on the person they can hear, which is the one person who's actually talking. So these tricks that HD supposedly ruined. Amazingly enough, we still have TV, and it still looks pretty good. So this is just another one of those rants. Oh, HDR, we don't need any more colors. We got all the colors we need. I got my 8-color crayon box. I'm good. Who needs 10-bit color? Who needs 12-bit color? I got 8-bit. I'm good.
Yeah, my basic feeling on this is that anyone who cared enough and took the time to get an accurate standard dynamic range image, and that's a lot of the people who listen to this podcast, but it's not most people overall, but anyone who did will continue to care enough to get an accurate HDR image, right? I agree. It is one more thing that can be messed about with. It is one more way to move away from the director or the filmmaker's intent. I agree with that. That's true. It's one more way that a lot of people will buy a new TV, take it out of the box, leave it in the default settings, and be seeing an even less accurate image. Right? I agree with that. But I don't agree with that there's no way to expand this. Like the whole idea that because HDR is there, every director is going to be forced to use all of it, all the way up to 10,000 nits. Like, no, you have a complete choice in how much dynamic range you choose to include in any image, right? And when the metadata is there and properly encoded, that's what you see, as long as you set up your TV to respond correctly to the metadata.
Yeah.
So, I agree. It is one more thing that can be screwed up. It's one more thing that in the default settings out of the box probably will be screwed up. But for the people who cared enough to set up SDR, they'll set up HDR correctly as well.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.